Hi everybody. Today I wanted to talk to you about forgiveness, and this is something that I've been thinking about for since the last video I did. And ironically, I got up this morning and sure enough, it was the subject of the sermon in church today. So it's definitely a sign that I'm supposed to be talking about forgiveness today. And forgiveness for some people is super hard. And I just want to, before I go any further, talk about this. This is from my perspective. I don't know your path. I don't know the struggles that you've been through. And I don't want you to feel like I judge you if you cannot forgive somebody. But speaking from my own personal perspective, I have to forgive people for hurting me because that becomes very toxic to me if I don't forgive. So there are a lot of experiences that we can have that result in the need for forgiveness. I mean, people can hurt us purposefully. They can hurt us accidentally. There's all sorts of things that can happen. And there are all sorts of reactions that we can have. When we're looking at forgiveness, when someone hurts me, I'm a redhead, my natural reaction is to plan their deaths. You know, like I'm Scott Irish, so here's the deal. Like, it's in my genetics to plan to drink whiskey out of the skulls of my enemies. Okay, so my mom's clan, their motto is never forget, and they don't mean like remember their loved ones. That's not what they meant. Remember those resentments and pay them back eventually. Even if it's 50 years later, you get back at them. What an unhealthy way of dealing with stuff, right? So in my mind, the way forgiveness works for me, the first stage is always like, I want to hunt them down, and it's not going to be pleasant for them. I want to make them feel worse than I feel. That's my initial reaction. I'm sure some of you can relate to that. Then I also have the reaction of anger. Sometimes I can have some denial in there, like they couldn't have possibly known that they were hurting me. How could they, like, why would they do that? That disbelief, that denial that comes along with it, that can happen too. And then it gradually shifts to just seething, like, I noticed one day I was having a good day, and then I started washing the dishes. This is before we had a dishwasher, and there was always a pile of dishes in the sink. So I started washing the dishes. And by the time I was done washing the dishes, I had gotten myself so angry just remembering what they had done and said, and just going over that in my head over and over again, and like, I should have said this, or I should have done this, or I should go and call them right now and cuss them out, you know. By the end of doing the dishes, my jaws were so tight, and I realized I had literally been biting my tongue. Like, what? So my jaws hurt, my tongue hurt. Like, what is wrong with you, Mandy? Why are you doing this? What is this doing? Well, it's making me miserable. And we've talked about energy before, and how different energies have different frequencies, and how different energies interact with your physical body. Well, anger is something that definitely has a negative impact on your body. So I'm damaging myself, and they're out living a happy life, doing whatever they want, not thinking about me at all, not caring one bit. So who am I punishing by doing this rumination over and over again? I'm doing it to myself. I'm hurting myself. There's a great saying in AA, you're letting them live rent-free in your head. I love that saying, because that's exactly what you're doing. You're giving them room, you're giving them space in your life. And that's not what you should be doing. You should be enjoying your own life. So Then after I get to the seething point, I start to realize, like, hey, Mandy, you really need to work on this. It's time. So I do the work that works best for me. I get all that anger out and I put it on paper. And we've talked about writing things down, um, and working things out on paper, whether it's typing, texting, whatever you feel is most comfortable form of communication for you. I write them a letter and I tell them exactly how their actions caused this. And this did this. This did this. Okay. And I get it across in that letter that this is something that really hurt me. And I take time to recognize those emotions. And that's the most important thing you can do is recognize that you were hurt and validate that you were hurt. Because again, for me, sometimes like I try to be someone who sees the good in people. And I try to say, oh, well, they didn't mean to hurt me, or I can understand what they were going through. That was a rough time for them, so I feel bad for them, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I have to get that out of me. I have to put it on paper so I can actually see that, yes, indeed, even though I understand their actions and their feelings and their emotions, they still hurt me. And it's okay for me to be hurt. It's all right. Because people that tend to be empaths don't tend to look at our own feelings. We're so busy working on other people's feelings and moderating their feelings so we don't have to feel theirs and ours. So it's okay for you to be hurt in a situation. And the great thing about it is, as you raise up and raise your vibration and start living more in love and light and joy and peace, you are going to be able to see more about other people's motives, how they're acting out of their own hurt, their own pain. And it doesn't always, it does not by any means justify it, but it helps you to understand where they're coming from and what caused them to be harmful to you. And as you can understand more about where they're coming from and what they were experiencing, they were acting out of their own trauma, out of their own grief, out of their own selfishness, and they don't understand that. You can start to see and feel more about how to forgive them. Like, oh, they made a mistake. So that can be helpful too. But writing it down is one of the first ways that I do it. I write a letter to the person, I type it out on my computer, but you choose your way, whatever works for you. And sometimes and you can choose whether to send it to them or not. Completely up to you. I know people that have sent it. I'm a person who I just let it sit on my computer for a couple days, and over time I feel less of that and I can delete it after a couple days. So that is super helpful for me. Other people can go and talk to a place that reminds them of them, or if the person is passed on, go to their gravesite. Yell at them if you need to. Just be prepared with bail money. So, if someone stops by, why are you yelling at that grave? It's okay. So just make sure that you're prepared for that. But express yourself. Get it out of you. We've talked before about how getting those negative emotions out of you is so important. So get it out of you. And then once you get to the point where you've recognized your feelings, you've recognized to a certain extent what their motives could have been behind it, you can start looking at, okay, so what do I need to do to forgive this person? Well, we've talked about those automatic thoughts before. My automatic thought washing the dishes whenever I would get alone would be to go to, I'm hangry. I had breakfast. I'm not hangry. I'm angry at this person because, and then I would start ruminating on it and run it through and run it through. And we've talked about the ruts in the road. There are birds flying by like crazy right now, guys. Sorry. So that's why my eyes are darting. Um, okay, so ruts in the road. So we've been talking about the ruts in the road and how our thoughts kind of wear ruts in the road. Well, this is somewhere where we can do that too. And we have to get out of that rut and move towards forgiveness. And the best way to do it that I've found, this was a blessing from my husband. I was talking to him about someone who had wronged me years and years and years ago. And I just was so angry at them and I couldn't let it go. And I talked to him and I said, how do I forgive this person? This person was horrible to me, took advantage of me, just not good situation, okay? And he said, well, you have to pray for them. Like, pray for them? Are you kidding me? Dude, I can't even say their name and a good word in the same sentence. Pray for them? I'm not going to mean it. And he said, that's okay. What? It's okay to not mean a prayer? That seems kind of dicey. So he said, no. It's the actions that you need. The actions that you need to show that you have the faith. Oh, that's kind of deep there, Frick. But the actions were me praying. So every time I would feel a negative emotion or a negative thought towards this individual, I would ask that God would bless them and bless them with the things that I wanted out of life. Not bless them with the knowledge that they hurt me and bless them with the condemnation coming down from heaven above. No, you can't do that. You have to focus on blessing them with the things that you want out of life. God bless them with love, with happiness, with joy, with peace, with a wonderful job, with a happy family that's healthy and thriving, with financial security. Bless them abundantly in every step of their life. Well, that's hard, and I'm sorry if it's windy. So that's really hard to do at first because you don't mean it. There is no part of you that means that. I really do not mean it when I start praying for someone. However, over time period, I do start to mean it and I start to feel it. And my husband promised me after 2 weeks I'd mean it. And sure enough, he was right. By the end of 2 weeks, I was praying for that individual and I meant every word that I prayed for that individual. And now the only time I think of that individual is when I'm talking about forgiveness. And that is freedom for me. Freedom from the anger that they left me with. Freedom from the hurt that they left me with. It's freedom that I can live my life in happiness, joy, and peace. Just like I prayed on them, I can live that. I receive that too. Isn't that such a blessing that you get all of that back that you try and give out in the world? You get it back. What a blessing that is. So if you're struggling with something hard, with something heavy, with someone who hurt you, look into that forgiveness. Write it down, process it out, and then do that prayer work. And you will be amazed at how much you can release and let go, and how you can move into the love and light that you should be in. Hope you have a blessed day today and that everybody finds forgiveness in their lives, whether they give it or whether they receive it. Bye, everybody.